మ్యామ్ ఇది సార్ పెట్టినదే కదా లింక్ సార్ చేసిందే కదా ఇది అదే అదే ఓపెన్ చేశాను మ్యామ్ జాయిన్ అయినట్టున్నారు Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm fine, ma'am. How are you?
Hi, Rachna.
Hi, ma'am.
You're doing good?
Yes, ma'am.
So very busy with duty is continuing.
Hello.
You can see me, right?
Yeah, ma'am. I can see you, but I'm not able to hear your voice, ma'am. It's breaking a lot.
Maybe connection issues. Let me just connect to my main Wi-Fi, okay?
Okay. Ma'am, will we start checking the slide or something?
What time is it? Time 2:30, right?
Yes, ma'am. 2:30.
So we can start by 2:15 or 2 o'clock also, if people want to join.
Oh, okay, ma'am. I'll just inform them to join. I'll ask them to join by 2:15, ma'am. We'll start by
2:15 is okay. Yeah, 2:15 is okay. Till then, I'll just log out, right?
Yeah, ma'am. Ma'am, do you want to check with the slides once?
Can you make the co-host also?
Ma'am, I've made you the host, right?
Yeah, because then only I can share this.
Yeah.
Just make me the co-host.
Ma'am, you are the host right now.
Now I know it still shows disabled participant screen sharing. Like, you have to give me the host.
Yes,
so
ma'am,
that
you are
I
the
can...
host, right? I've made you
No,
the host.
I can't. It is saying host disabled participant screen sharing.
One second. Ma'am, now can you check once?
I can share.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Now I can share. Yeah. Yeah, this is fine, right? You are there, Rachna?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here, but I'm not able to see your slide share, ma'am. I think it's taking time to get back to my system.
Oh, I'm already sharing the screen now.
It's still not on my screen. I'm just waiting for this.
Okay, no? Still not
Ma'am,
able to share?
no,
Still
ma'am, I'm
not
not
able
able
to
to.
see?
No, ma'am, still not able to see the screen.
Oh.
Um, yes, ma'am.
No,
Now I can see it.
you can see, right?
Yeah, yeah, yes, ma'am.
Okay. I will not disconnect now, no? I'll keep it connected now, no? You will have some other meeting also now.
No, ma'am, you can be connected, no problem.
Okay. Because then again, if I go now, again, all that will have to start again.
Yeah,
That's fine, right?
yes, ma'am.
Fine. This is interesting topic, no, Rachna?
Yes, ma'am.
You
For
guys
the
are doing
present,
tele-rehab?
uh, not effectively, ma'am, but doing it. Actually, helping the COVID patients with through video calls itself. So, yeah. Some or the
Acha,
other way, everyone is involved in that tele-rehabilitation.
हाँ ना. So, do you all have? I'll ask some question how you guys are doing telehealth for COVID patients. Will you be able to share that data?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Sure.
Right. Okay. I'll just switch off my video maybe.
Yeah,
Okay, na?
yes,
Because your participants will join now.
yeah.
I'll stop the screen share.
Yes, ma'am. Once you start the session, you can start sharing the screen again.
Yeah, that's fine.
Bikkanur main Victoria.
ఏదో ఆయన
class
Hi, Sneha.
Hello.
I'm good. How are you? ఏం చేస్తున్నామా పాలు పోసుకునేసావా
Did all these people come up, participants? Oh, 60 are there. Our speaker?
Hi, ma'am.
Is
Hi,
here.
Hannah, ma'am.
Good. How are you? Good afternoon.
Good
I was worried
afternoon.
whether you joined or not.
No, I'm just waiting
Very
for all
nice.
of you. How are you?
Yes. So 5 minutes more.
Okay.
Yeah, fine. So we'll wait for 5 minutes. Around people are joining and more than 60 are there. We'll just wait.
Nice.
Huh?
Yeah, very good.
Then how is your work going on? How's your family?
Yeah, we are all fine. How are you, ma'am?
By God's grace, we are doing good.
Great.
Okay, you take time.
God bless.
We'll get back
Yeah.
to you. Okay. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Host, can you make me the co-host so that I can share the screen? Dr. Rachna, can you make me the co-host?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, can you confirm if you're the host now?
Ma'am, shall we start, ma'am?
Yeah, we can do that.
How many people are there?
How many people have joined now?
70, ma'am.
participants.
We can start, right?
70?
It's almost going to be 2:15, right?
Yeah, okay. So Rachna, you have to moderate, no?
Yeah.
Ma'am,
Oh,
it's,
Durga is moderating. Okay.
yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Sure.
So Durga will moderate and then. Okay. Okay then.
Okay, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's session. I, A. Durga, welcome all the participants on behalf of Apollo College of Physiotherapy. Thank you, one and all, for joining the session. Hope you all will have a knowledgeable session. I welcome Mrs. Varalakshmi, Vice Principal, Apollo College of Physiotherapy, to welcome our speaker for today. Handing over to you, ma'am.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce Anjali Agarwal, ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am. And she's a consultant physiotherapist, lifestyle consultant, and childbirth educator. And ma'am has an expertise in lifestyle management, heart manual facilitation, and women's health, even in pulmonary and cardiac rehabilitation, and also in orthopedic neurological rehabilitation for geriatric conditions also. And ma'am has completed her BPT and PG diploma in preventive and promotive healthcare. And ma'am has an professional experience, like she is certified lifestyle counselor, conducted various prenatal and postnatal exercise group sessions. Even ma'am also conducted one prenatal and postnatal conference in our college also under Physio Foundation of India. I remembered that day, ma'am, you taught very well and the session was very good. And ma'am has a certificate management of obesity, a multidisciplinary approach, part 1, and different certificate managements of tendo Achilles pain and anaphylaxis in primary care, stroke in primary care, cardiovascular risk assessment, airway management in primary care training, and immediate life support course, and also has a certificate course in acute coronary syndromes diagnosis and management. And Anjali Agarwal ma'am has an awards and recognitions also, and she has an grabbed the best physiotherapist award from Remedy Systems and Services from Chennai, and Heart Manual Team NHS Lothian UK awarded certificate of appreciation for her help with Heart Manual DVD project year 2010. And ma'am also involved in care of the first woman justice of India, and she has received lots of appreciation from her for the amount of dedication she has shown to her during her treatment. And also has an award for a pioneer in the birth, the New Humanity International Conference on Women's Health at Bangalore 2018. And also been awarded as being a role model for setting accessible India campaign in Hyderabad. And ma'am also has a research publications like elderly abuse in India, and geriatric rehabilitation and exploratory study, and women's health and economic development of a country. Ma'am, I welcome you for this webinar. Hope all the students will get a knowledgeable session today. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I
So,
request,
a very
ma'am.
good afternoon.
Yeah, 1 second, ma'am. I just wanted to inform something to students. So any doubts or queries, you can just post it in the chat box. Will be answered at the end. We hand over it to you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Yeah. A very good afternoon to one and all. I hope all of you are very excited to learn something very new and something which has been going on for quite some time but has not been well placed in the system as yet. But I feel with everything now going online, with conferences, with education, with great learnings which we are receiving online, it's time that our patients also receive our continued help and care online, and which can change the demarcation of health for all around the world. I think the world will become so simple on a tip of a button. And healthcare, nothing best than getting access to care on a tip of a button. And that is what our topic of the day is, very interesting, which is telerehabilitation. The word itself is so very prominently talking about itself, as tele means through kind of devices and remote access, and rehabilitation, which we as physiotherapists provide to our patients to get back to leading to their normal life and help them return back to their normal activities. Now, COVID-19 brought us to a halt, and we were, trying to find ways as to minimize exposure of the patients and also continue to deliver care to the patient. That's what tele-rehab has evolved in the year 2020. And as physiotherapist and as myself running it so accurately from about March, we are all learning with the downfalls and the pitfalls, but I think we are actually emerging successfully, helping our patients over the time being. So let's hear it out as to what it is and what and how one can run a successful tele rehab. You can be anywhere in the world and you can still see your patient, right? That's the great access help it has for anyone. Yeah. Now, telehabilitation was termed as e-rehabilitation, is the e-access which we have to care. So it can be given with the help of our interactive devices, which is your computers, smartphones, and tablets, and various programs and links through which a patient can get access to our care. So it is something which is wide spectrum, which caters to a wide spectrum of health ailments and quite beneficial to our patients who are in rural, remote areas. And the providers like us, we will be able to assist our patients and also deliver therapy just sitting at our homes or sitting in our clinics, and the patient might be stationed somewhere very far away from us. So during the COVID-19, when we know that patients are not being able to be seen in majority of the hospitals because of volumes of infection on that hospital, tele-rehab being a greatest boon for all of the physiotherapists who want to still give care to their patients. Now, it can be divided into two roles, right? We have a clinical assessment and a clinical therapy. Now, when you see your patient online, what are the basis on which you are seeing a patient? I know I heard from a lot of people and students from Apollo College of Physio that they are catering to tele-rehab, pulmonary rehab, and seeing COVID care. But now, how can we elaborate our care and assessment plans all around the physiotherapy verticals? Now, look at the appraisal of functional abilities within their own environment. Now, the great benefit is when the patient was being seen by us in a clinic or in a rehab center, we would always ask the patient two things: how are you sleeping? What kind of a mattress you're using, or what kind of a desktop do you work on with computer people? And if it's an elderly, we always ask them how you're using your kitchen gadgets. Now, with the good assessment protocol, we have something which is tele-rehab in the house. So it's something which is born, the patients can be seen within the access of their environment of home, in their bedrooms, and they know how they're using their microwave or how they're using their kitchen gas stove or how they're using their bed or how their mattresses. We can see that with, it's real time virtual rehab, I would say, which could minimize a lot of problems which we never actually were able to cater to in the clinical setting, because saying something and seeing something is so very different, right? When you have a visual access, that's 100% more very important than just having a verbal access. Patient just comes and brings you a whole lot of experiences which he has of a bad mattress, of a bad ergonomic chair, or a bad kitchen slab. But now when we are able to access them online, I think it has made the world so small and easy for them. Now, the clinical therapy could be the full spectrum therapy, which can be conducted through your audio, through your visual, and all the modern digital communication mediums, right? Now, we are having these conferences and we are having these telemeets, educational telemeets, all on Zoom, WebEx, Microsoft Teams. So this plethora of devices and plethora of communication mediums by which we are able to cater to the tele-rehab. And it is working well. So far, so good. Now, the ease of access of care. It is just not the access of care for the patient. It's about the third party. It could be yourself, your physicians, and the whole plethora of team who goes involving into the care delivery of a patient. So tele-rehab, in this vertical, we would have a lot of occupational therapists, speech therapists, dietitian and nutritionists, physician, neurophysician, cardiovascular surgeons, and cardiologists, and your oncologists and geriatric specialists. All of them can team up and can aim for a good access of care for our patients. Especially this seems to work remarkably good in cases of follow-up of stroke rehab and cases of TCAR, like total knee replacements and total hip replacements. Because if we look at how many people are able to get access to transport during the times when we know COVID-19 has been very prevalent, with no access to cabs and taxis and public transports, people being dependent who are sick cannot be so mobile to ride a bike or a car. I think this has been a beneficial boon for all of the patients here. Now, how did COVID-19 change our discipline of care has been that despite the limitations involved, that we cannot see each and every patient of ours, and we are catering to what is called as the primary important case, which we say is the effective alternative, traditionally in-person care, in comparison to what we give as person care. And during the times of emergency, it's been seen that with the taking care of precautions and prevention of transmission of disease, according to the American Physical Therapy Association, the APTA, the House of Delegates recognizes tele-rehab as a well-defined, established method of health services delivery that enhances patient and client interactions. So we often hear from our, physio friends that our patients are not very happy the moment we say that we cannot have in-person touch care, and they have a lot of apprehension. How is one going to run a physiotherapy session online? But I will come to the lot of pros about how we can deliver this care and continue to do that. Today I'm in Hyderabad. My patients have been stuck somewhere in Punjab, and they've been stuck somewhere in Kerala. They've not been able to come back to Hyderabad for various reasons because of the lockdown and everything. But still they're able to continue my care delivery program being there. So that is one of the biggest benefit I think we are giving to our patients here. Now, the role of telepractice in healthcare has not been just today. COVID-19 has just opened its gates more strongly, I would say, but it has given increased access to the providers, to the specialists, and to the equipments, right? And it saves a lot of costs on travel and complications from delayed treatment. So few of my patients who are on the terminal end of cancer treatment, and they have been denied chemotherapy and radiotherapy from various hospitals because of their risk of contracting the disease. Now, in their case, what we are doing is telehealth practices. We can give them pain management right within their home circuit from our units. So it's like helping them be motivated and they don't go depressed having not been able to get continued care from the chemotherapy and the various radiotherapy protocols, which they need to come to the hospital and get it. But there's some things like we can always give online, which could be speech therapy, occupational therapy, physiotherapy, and diet counseling. I think that is the greatest boon and the greatest assert we could actually give them. Now look at the basic chart here, like what are the various conditions and disease conditions telehealth has been working superbly. Now, where in various cases of telehealth, we were actually looking at cases like cardiac heart failure services. In the UK, where I was part of the cardiac respiratory team with NHS London, we were able to cater to our heart failure cases online. It was sometime long back again. And the same principle now I see is being very prevalently being used in cases of, in India and in other countries where we are catering to cardiological clinics and we are catering to heart failure people, because we know The basic help for cardiac failure patients or heart failure patients are exercise. And the key to get them to exercise and help them continue to do the exercises is very important. So you see in this data here about the blue color mark is your cardiac heart failure patients who get maximum help through telehealth. And then it comes to the chronic disease management, could be diabetes, could be PCOD managements and hypertension, and could be chronic disease with rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis. These are the various conditions which we can help with, and the maximum of the effect which we see with COPD. Yeah, we can do this online. So a lot of, I think, COVID care has been given online with telehealth medium. And COPD, we just have to understand that the patient is sticking into the schedule of maintaining his proper lifestyle goals, and he's able to maintain his proper oxygen levels. He's not deteriorating his lung capacity, and he's not actually going into hypoxia many of the times. These are various chapters with COPD and lung disease like asthma, COPD, lung fibrosis, pulmonary fibrosis, cystic fibrosis. These chapters can all be run very well through telerehab. And it is something where we can have protocol based, we can do assessments so well, and with assessments we can actually find out whether the patient improvement protocol has been there or not. And maximum of the telerehab is also helping patients to control the diabetic neuropathy by increasing the exercise capacity of these patients. And the very less quantity we see in wound care, palliative care. As I mentioned, many of my cancer patients are able to get our remote help, and it's really helping them be active and stay well, and the pediatric care. So we have a lot of cases of torticollis being handled online, which I've been doing, and a lot of delayed milestones, right? Now, because of the apprehension patients are having that they don't want to visit a hospital nowadays. Whatever said and done, we are able to counsel them and say that their actually quality of life should not deteriorate with the conditions they already have. We are kept on motivating them to come for continuity of care, but sometimes it's not happening. So the something which we can offer them is something called as going on forward as pediatric care, which could be given in a form of assessments and can be given to the mother or the parent of the child, and the child can thereon be helped by the parents to continue with the exercises. With autism, with the spectral disorders, we are able to cater to a vast majority of cases this way. Now, this is something which is something over the years, I think elderly care or elderlies who are immunocompromised or they are like having diabetes have been advised to stay at home. And like NHS UK, the National Health Services UK, actually told that all elderly plus 60 should stay home for at least 3 to 4 months, shouldn't step out for anything. And people with COPD and asthma, because I was part of the asthma COPD team for North London, so we got a circular saying all your patients should not be allowed to actually step out of their houses for the following months. Now, winter approaching, the things would deteriorate in cities like Scotland and UK. The tele-rehab has helped the elderly people, especially for geriatric management of their knee joint pain, back pain, Parkinsonism. So yes, definitely we need good cognitive skills, and we need to evaluate our patients on the basis of their cognition function, their memory power, and their ability to maintain their balance and proprioception. So choosing a patient, how you choose a patient, how you assess a patient for tele-rehab is particularly very, very important. But I'm talking about this elderly care, which I think got very much, weightage over the time of COVID-19. Like 50% of our patients who cannot come to the clinic because of various reasons, because they live on their own, there's no public transport, and there's nobody to come and help them. drop to the clinic. So the elderlies were able to get help, were able to get heard by all of us. So that is something which we really need to think practically also. Now, coming down to how you would assess on a video and a telephonic call, basically, uh, what we tell the patient is to self-palpate, if they have a pain of tennis elbow on the elbow, right? We can tell them that, can you palpate and pinpoint the point where they feel the pain? That is one assessment tool which you can use. Instead of you palpating a patient palpates it. And it's more of assessment of how the patient is moving the joint. This is how the difference of video consultation and telephonic consultation would happen over the real-time person-to-person care. Now, the real-time demonstration, self-palpation by the patient, and the verbal guidance. So you are the key person who would drive the verbal guidance and the vocabulary support. So many of the times patients doesn't understand where is the elbow or where is the wrist. So you got to give the visual cues, right? Rather just the verbal, I'll add the vocabulary support as the visual support. You can tell, can you please touch this area? This is how you give the visual cue to the patients. And that is how I think going forward, your patient would get the actual mean of assessments being done. Now, the validity, reliability of the assessments and diagnosis of musculoskeletal elbow disorders using tele-rehabilitation is very much possible, because we do a Mills maneuver, right? We actually understand there is a pain in the elbow to actually substantive and subjectively actually ask that the person has got, tennis elbow. So these are little cues which you can use on tele-rehab and has been very good. Now, in the case of this is musculoskeletal. Now, in case of pulmonary rehab and with growing needs of COVID-19 pulmonary care, we need to make sure that we are asking them to measure the pulse oximeter, give you a reading before they walk and after they finish the walk and during their walk. So we can ask them to do a 6-minute walk test, which we are asking them to understand how the oxygen sats are. So if they have a pulse oximeter, let them wear it and make them do a walk and ask them to show you the real time value and how they are feeling. So that is very important. So you have to look, you got to listen to the patient, but you can't feel, but you can surely understand the way the patient is breathing. If he's breathing heavily, so we can record his heart rate, we can see his breaths per minute, we understand the patient's breathlessness score or the dyspnea score. We can ask, is the patient feeling too tired, is easy, he can walk for more. So these are little basis of assessments which we can all run for our patients actually. But there are some barriers attached to our assessment channels. Now, the professional competency standards, right? Many of the times we don't understand whether the patient might have had an elbow fracture from a long-term history. So gather the history, then do the assessment. I think that is very important. Degree of physical contact. So we cannot actually see whether the patient might be having inflammation or he might be having a growth or a tumor. So that we can only see when we touch a person, right? We had this case like in Jan sometime. This lady has come to me post plaster, right, for fracture rehab sent by an orthopedician. But sadly, when we kind of touch her, feel the ankle, we see a bony outgrowth on the aspect of a talus, okay, tarsals underneath the tarsals. So something which we cannot do with tele-rehab is touch the patient, feel for the tissues or feel for our structures, any kind of foreign body being attached, or there has been a growth of a tumor. So in those cases, I think there is something which is very tricky matter. Now, patient cognition. So most of the elderlies would have issues with cognition skills. They might have issues with memory issues. Patients who are elderly and a lot of hypertensive diabetic drugs would have issues with cognition too. availability for research for interventions, right? We might also prescribe them exercises. We might say you can hold to get access to those. Now, many times there's a reimbursement module attached to it. So cases of TKR and THR, which is total hip replacement TKR, many of the times the hospitals are able to help them with the reimbursement of the physiotherapy, which is post-operative care. So in this case of telehealth, they have to also make sure that they're able to get access to get their reimbursement from the insurance company. With the insurance company, which they have, is allowing them to take help of getting it reimbursed if they're taking help through telehealth. Now, liability clarification. So there can be a time when this doesn't much happen in India, but we have to be very clear now going forward, as we know the thing is the stream of tele rehab would kind of evolve now over the past, like over the continuous few months. Now, there is quality of tech devices, like whether using a computer, whether using a phone, licensing clarification. So many times, especially in US and UK, what data you collect, what you talk, everything needs recording, everything needs documentation. So it's, I personally would advise to all of you is document everything, how you document yourself in the clinical setting. So you can have a format ready where you document every record of your patient, because tomorrow, as we don't know that there could be litigation cases from these patients, which they can say that I was not taken care well by this patient. Suppose we are seeing pregnancy women online, we need to be super careful addressing the pregnant patients online, because most of the time, if we're giving them any kind of exercises which is prenatal, there can be chances that they might end up with a miscarriage. 50% of the times this has happened with not non-physio professionals. But if physio is also giving, make sure you have documentation in place. Now, the HIPAA, that comes from, because I'm talking about tele-rehab from world scenarios. So the law of HIPAA is your patient confidentiality, data protection, your consent of patients, right? You need the consent to be given by your patient. Now, lack of literature to base policy change. There's not a lot of literature still on tele-rehab as to how professionally you can run it, with respects to if you want to run it from your clinic or home. So if there's a particular environment needed, if you're running it through your home, privacy requirements, because your family members cannot be around when you are attending to your patient, because patients are your whole soul, clientele is your per se, it's your role how you would address them. So nobody else should be in the room to listen to the conversation which you're having with your patient. Data protection is very important, how you record, how you store it, and it should not go out in public. So these are very important things which has to be taken care mindfully. Right. Now, the assessment consideration of the physical exam. So we can see the ROM, the range of motion of particular joints, how the person's having pain with the shoulder range of motion, or if having a sports therapist or somebody, you all run special tests, which could be done online. At least 50% of these palpation tests can be done in the basis of how the patient is performing, on the basis of movement, on the basis of range of motion, how the basis of quality of life, how the basis of standard of, activities of daily living, how is performing those activities of living. So we get a standard protocol assessment as to that a patient not able to turn his neck to the right side. So there is some problem with his range of motion around the neck area. So these little things are very important here. The kind of tele-rehab interventions which we are giving is education. We are definitely with COPD, lung, leg tissue fibrosis, cystic fibrosis. We have to educate the patient how they're breathing well, how they're recording the oxygen sats, and how they are not going into a hypoxic space, and how they can get out of a short bout of shortness of breath. These are little education which we can give. We can give education on how to manage falls for the elderly, goal setting. The second prime goal for your patient is, I want to see my patient for a SMART goal. What is a SMART goal? Which is can anybody tell me what is a SMART goal? Can just type it out in the chat box. I'll take that question in the end, but definitely answer to my question. What is a SMART goal which you'll set for your patient? I will come to the SMART goal, the full form of the SMART goal at the end of the question. I want everybody to be more interactive as to how you can set a SMART goal for a patient. Now, for example, you have a client whom you saw in February with a lot of back pain, lot of stiffness in the knee, has been an elderly of around 75 years, has comorbidities like diabetes, cardiovascular ailments, has lot of lung issues with terms to his lung capacity is decreased as a result of lot of interventions he has had in the cardiac format. So what will be our goal for this elderly gentleman going forward for 2021 Jan? Please, any one of you can put it in the chat box. We'll take that question there. Now, intervention with exercise and equipment. So a lot of equipments which you have in your clinical setting or in your rehab setting may not be available for the patient at their home, but they surely would have cans of weight, or they can have a bag of rice. It is being as universal as possible. We might have people sitting in the remote circle of Guntur, in the remote circle of Warangal. They might not have access to dumbbells. They might not have access to, the bands. How realistic can you get your rehab? This is the time for innovation. This is the time of being exclusively being as helpful to your client on the basis of whatever they have at home. Like we were told that whatever little you have at home, cook that food and eat during the pandemic time. This is what is important now. So we evolve, we innovate, and we find different ways, being a physiotherapist, how to help our patient, right? Now, motor retraining. So motor retraining can be easily done with the help of the medium of online. Now, movement facilitation. A patient is not able to get up from the chair, is not able to go to the bathroom, is not able to go and cook and cut his own vegetables. These are functional needs the patient needs to be addressed. So the functional ROM can always be helped with the kind of online thing. Pain management can also be given with the terms of like talking about the hot pack, the cold packs. We can ask them to do some therapeutic manual therapies, which they can do, or their patient's relative or their partners can also help them with, and we can teach them that. And this has been the gold standard all around the world, and we have been able to cater to this help to a lot of people. So, but the prime thing to understand is, yes, you got to tell them there could be risk involved if you do this. Please don't do this if this happens. So if you ask them to step on a stool, if you're asking them to do stair climbing exercise, or you want to work on their quadriceps, make sure you also talk to them and be very verbal about the risk factors involved. If they're all alone, by chance they might have a fall episode, and that way you have to be careful what you address to elderly and people with kinds of like increased risk of falls. Now, another assessment is movement examination and standardized testing. So we know that the level of knee flexion is about a certain angle to knee extension. We might ask the person to perform it in front of you, making sure they have a nice environment, a nice cozy bed, or on the floor if they can sit and stand on the floor. They can able to demonstrate this for your assessment consideration. This is very important that like whenever you are assessing your client or assessing your patient, it is very clearly understood that they might have pain, they might have inflammation, there could be a limitation of joint range of movement, there could be crepitus, there could be some kind of biomechanical changes in the joint. That way we may not be able to get the full range of movement. So you have a question mark query for this client as to there could be a compensation of range of motion for a person, and looking at the condition of the patient, you can categorize there and plan their treatment protocol. Now, there has been a lot of evidence about tele-rehab. So Koget, Carey, and Grigoni had also talked about the quality assessment of systematic reviews on tele-rehab. And what does the evidence tell us by Sanity? Hmm. One second, I think that is not. I'll just share the screen again. One second. One second, I'll just go online. What happened? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm there, no?
Yeah.
Okay. Some connection issue. I don't know what happened. Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
Right. One second. Right. So we were talking about the evidence of like what is evidence for telehealth? Like what has it been telling us? So a lot of times TKR rehab online has been more evidently helpful rather than with chronic condition, cardiorespiratory conditions. More evidence also has been required for stroke rehab and also the evidence required for economics, the economics of the tele-rehab as to how we are going to cater to recovery of data of each individual, each patient of ours. That's very, very important here, right? So like the gold standard assessments are also how we are doing the testing of various patients of ours and all. The pros and cons, the basic benefit of tele-rehab is the increased reach and access, which could be rural areas, limited access of care, decrease missed visit rates. How many of us we know that we tell our patient, tomorrow is the time, you have an appointment, please do come and see us. Patient may not come because of the bad traffic or because of very last minute virtual meetings they might end up with, or they might have some other prior appointment. So their access to care is there, but they don't have the freedom and the time to come. So we are able to cater to any time help for them. Decreased also cost savings are plenty, because saving on petrol, saving on gas, and a lot of help with travel related expenses. Can it be performed in variety of locations? It can be done at your home, at your work, in your gym. So many of times your patients who are going to the gym will ask you for, like, they are getting a pain in the shoulder while they're lifting a dumbbell. So that's again another pros of having it virtually. You can run it anywhere. So 24/7 access sometimes is so easy. Now, patient satisfaction is equivalent to traditional care. It is. So a lot of our physiotherapy friends are actually telling us that we are not able to get, patient feel satisfied if you're not touching them. Until unless they use a physiotherapy modality like an ultrasound or the standard IFT or a laser, they're not able to feel that they are able to get access to good care. But I think what you talk to the patient, how you assess the patient, what you tell the patient, what benefit the patient gets from your kind of module of care is very important. And we have to be religiously driving the matter with our own capacity to understand that this care and the care which you get person to person is not different. We are driving the same control here. Now, there is limitation tele-rehab is the technology challenges, right? Just now we had a technology challenge here. The internet did not work, and there are times when there can be load sheddings in India. So those times our internet access may not be so very well functional for us. So those little challenges we have to actually work on. So the most of delivery of tele-rehab, anybody can list out without reading this, I'll be more than happy. So now earlier, like I would say 2014 is the time, or 2017, it picked up really vast with teleconsults, telephonic and pre-recorded video materials. I see a lot of channels of physios and clinics who are actually giving recorded video materials to their clients. That's very good, but at times you need that patient person-to-person interaction, which I think gives us 100% good results with terms to patient satisfaction. Now, the live video conferencing, web-based interactive software. So there are lots of softwares we can actually get now installed, which is helping. Text messaging technology. So we had about like 100 patients of cardiac heart failures. And being part of the heart manual team in the UK, we would have a nurse, a dietitian, a cardiothoracic surgeon, and a cardiologist. We would all run our messaging system with each of our patients every week. And we'll get a report as to how this patient is performing post-PCI, post-MI, and having got discharged from the hospital. So that's post-discharge care for them. And it is wonderful. You get access to patients' detail on a tip of a button, and you can maintain their care delivery so well. Sensor-based technology is mainly called as senior-based technology. Why we say sensor-based? Elderlies will not have access to being able to touch the phone, hold the phone, press the button. So something which is more sensor-based, like you just walk into a room, the light switches on. The moment you see the camera starts working. These are kind of sensor-based technologies which have been benefited for the elderly and the senior population. Now, the virtual reality environments, just like if you've seen a Samsung, like the goggles, it makes you go into virtual reality. Now, many of the hospitals, and many in India and as well as abroad, we have that patients who are in ICUs, patient in stroke rehab and MIs, they have a virtual room where they are almost imagining they're sitting in a garden. That has helped to increase their level of independence. It has helped to improve their quality of life and bring them more back to reality of life. And it is really very helpful in ICU settings and all. Now what we are dealing with is the smartphones and the applications. Lot of apps have got flooded in the market from the time COVID-19. It got a lot of business for India, I would say. All the innovators got on the track to get our smartphones with an application app. All of us, most of us would be on Practo, Librate. These are various applications which are running and which are catering to telehealth. But I think as they also have their own limitations as to the time of connections, the time of failure of connections, patient response, and your response. So these tidbits, if you can kind of, bring in together, the care delivery program online gets very much better. Now, the evolving care practice. Now, tele-rehab will continue to evolve. And like people like us, we can always innovate and find out various ways to innovate and understand what it's all about. The practitioners like us, we should be adapting our clinical skills to meet the advancement. Like everything needs to be evolved, and this is what the new normal is going to be in the next coming months. Now, with current norms of social distancing, shelter in place orders due to COVID-19, it's a responsibility that we will try to mitigate the risk and maintain the health and well-being of each of our patients. So the key thing important is a great communication skill with great observation skill will enhance the quality of telepresence. So how you see, how you observe, how you listen, these are active mode of questioning the patient, active listening. These are qualities which I think we all need to get into examining a patient and assessing a patient. I think everything doesn't involve touch now, doesn't involve modalities now. The whole protocol of physiotherapy was to give exercise, get the patient back into his activities of daily living, and get the person out of pain and manage their quality of life. These kind of evolving care practice should actually help about 70–80% of our population. Now, the cost effectiveness, the real-time use, and the barriers which we will have to understand is the revenue model. So there are times, suppose the patient has scheduled an appointment with you, there could be a loss of revenue at times. Like many of the times, if the patient are taking calls through you, through your phone numbers, and you want to give them a WhatsApp video chat or a WhatsApp call, many times they might not turn back a call or return a call. That appointment scheduling can be given to some other patient who was very much in need. So that kind of criteria, I would suggest a smartphone application caters to that, where they kind of collect the revenue in advance so that you don't have the missed payment. So that is again, we have to also look at the revenue module of telehealth, because if you are looking at care delivery with the perspective of the care being given by government organization, which is supposed to be free, with private organization, we also have to look after the revenue module. So these applications will help you prevent cancellation and will be very effective reminder system. So you will have a pop-up screen as to know that which patient today you will have at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, and that is wonderful. Each application costs a small renewal fee. So you buy it and you kind of renew it, and the number of physiotherapists or the clinics that require a subscription. The important to note is the therapeutic non-compliance associated with urgent care visits, hospitalization, and a higher treatment cost. So there has been a non-compliance. So suppose a patient had an ACL injury and he wants to see you immediately online, there could be times that you need to get this patient referred to a surgeon for further like scope of practice by the surgeon. So in those calls, there are times when there can be a non-compliance of telehealth, which is urgent visit or which is injury-based visits. Now, these applications can be an investment for the clinic or hospital to help increase efficiency and also reduce your cancellation and future healthcare demand. Now, while these applications provide an exciting new outlet for physiotherapy to proceed towards the future, there are barriers attached with successful implementation of these new technologies. Now, through a discussion and understanding of these obstacles, further research can be directed to a way to improve and adapt technology to suit the current needs of healthcare. Now, with types of HIPAA, because we don't have so much of data protection laws and confidentiality laws, especially in our country, yet I've seen that people might run a telehealth rehab somewhere where their friend is sitting or their family member is sitting. In those situations, one has to be very, very, very clear in this mind that you are with your patient and patient is not being observed by anybody else than you, because the patient has consented only to see you. So being more professional is the need of the hour. That is very important, that we are not discussing our patients openly, and we are maintaining the privacy confidentiality code of conduct as a professional, which is very important if we are doing telehealth, because any matter which is online is always being having a chance of being recorded, or it gets stored somewhere in the cloud data. So we got to be very careful. The innovation is the growing number of elderly people and the impact on the NHS. That is what I'll term it. It is the increasing considerable health cost for the growing demands for treatment. So UK caters to maximum amount of elderly population. India has a maximum amount of young working population. Now it is also been hoped that the integrated telehealth measures, the cost will be reduced, because the elderly who keep coming to the clinic in the NHS, everything is free of cost. But in India, the elderlies are not so frequently visiting the hospital as I've seen in other places. Now, the court case 2006 found a significant improvement in patient outcome when he was tele-rehabilitated, 50% in the reduction in cost comparison to inpatient rehabilitation. So the biggest boon is cutting down the cost for these patients and for yourself. Now, generally, most systematic reviews that has been carried out investigating the efficacy of the tele-rehab report the patient's perspective on its use on a positive experience with significant clinical outcomes. Now, the hope for the future is to continue to develop and use innovative technologies that will transform the current practice and make telerehabilitation an integral part of healthcare. So I'm very proudly saying that Apollo College of Physiotherapy is doing a good job catering to a lot of people, with pulmonary rehab. And I think going forward, all of us should be taking this forward in a very big stride. So the take-home message for all of us is technology is expanding at an unprecedented rate. Technology is giving us neck pain because we are all glued to the screen, glued to our chairs and sitting it's next to smoking. But technology surely has helped a lot of us and a lot of our patients. Now, because patients value the speed and the convenience of the internet, there's an increasing demands for telemedicine. Practitioners must therefore adapt their clinical skills to evolve online technology. One of the study mentions that patient outcomes, quality life, all has improved. So let me talk about my example of seeing a patient who has been elderly of 71 years. I think she's quite lonely at home. She doesn't have any of her close children living with her. She lives by all by herself. And because of the situation of COVID and the clinics getting closed, she's not able to come and meet me in person and maybe talk about her day in and out, how her life is going. And she would always do a weekly visit with me in the clinic. Now, what we do is telehealth for her has helped her manage her condition and sail her through this period of boredom, self-isolation. We are making sure she's walking, she's keeping herself mobile and keeping her knees agile, making sure her osteoporosis is addressed with the basic exercises which we can give to the elderly. So these are the things which I see a positive outlook for tele-rehab. Now, the base of mechanical assessments was observation, was movement rather than the palpation. So in each case, the virtual mechanical assessment identified a specific sub-classification with a directional preference. So we have to understand the limitation. We are not palpating, we are seeing and studying assessing movement, range of motion. These are the basis on which our treatment protocols should be chartered. Now, all patients reported improvement in symptoms and function in less than 4 visits, and all maintained a reduction in symptoms after 3 months, which I've told you about this elderly lady. So given the hands-off role of the evaluator, this approach can be very effective tool in the evolving healthcare platform of telerehab. So as per the Federation of State Boards of Physical Therapy, US, both PT and OT were actually advised to run the practice on an administrative, clinical, technological, ethical regulations for the implementation of telerehab. And in the light of all of them advised literally to run this on a telerehab base. For example, the therapist obtained the informed consent, maintain confidentiality of the patient and patient's record. Each patient or each therapist has to treat with the scope of therapy practice pertaining to the needs of the patient, and the HIPAA must be followed to the extent feasibility. Now, the provider must also ensure that procedures are in place to address the medical and clinical emergencies that may occur during the course of remote treatment. Now, at times when patient is being seen for COPD or cardiac heart failure, he might have a chest pain or an acute episode of MI. In those circumstances, we will have to talk to the family member of the patient and tell them that you need to be alongside your patient, and in case of MI, and what are the procedures of giving a NTGN spray or putting a sorbitol under the tongue. The maximum emergency management should be explained to them before you actually run a cardiac rehab or pulmonary rehab for patients who are acutely sick, and you might have a button press, as these are the candidates I should be very careful managing online. So the future is on the tips. So future of healthcare is on the tips. So our tips being, because we use our gadgets with our tips. So telemedicine will become the core methodology of healthcare delivery in the future. And this is where we are going to get the efficiencies we need to provide affordable care. So rather than patient coming, waiting in your waiting queue, in the waiting desk, booking an appointment, cancellation of their cabs, nobody to get them to the physiotherapist, no access to transport, all these limitations will not control our patient delivery care now. So I've been involved with a lot of COVID care family telerehab. So each wife and the husband and the children, they all segregated in different rooms. Both the wife and the husband have had very much of a lot of chest pain, and they're having a lot of pain in the lower back and the back of the rib cage because of the constant coughing. So being involved in the telerehab for this COVID family, and like the oxygen sats were not being maintained so well for this patient, but we are able to actually help these patients also. This is one example where I've been involved in this telerehab back pain assessment. This lady is an elderly lady, had a fall in the washroom. So we'll have to see, not a fall in fact on the floor, but she would have hit a bathtub or something where she's got hurt on the back. So we just see normal movement assessment of this lady. And that's how we are running the telerehab in various modules. This is again another snapshot of doing exercises for TKR and THAB and ACLs. Roughly, she had everything here. So basically, continuity of care, and patients are happy and satisfied. These are the key goals we have to look at, and what we can do for them is the best of our knowledge. So that's about. We'll try to wrap up questions now. So we've already taken a lot of time of all of you.
Students, if anyone has questions, you can unmute your mic and ask, ma'am.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask about the SMART goal. So everybody who can talk about SMART goal, how will you set a SMART goal for your patient? And during the time of tele-rehab, setting a SMART goal is very important protocol for going forward. How will you assess? How will you set a goal? And how will you look at their outcomes, like tele-rehab outcomes for this patient? Yeah, nobody wants to ask a question? I think it's a new.
Ma'am, SMART goal means it should be specific to the condition what we are going to treat. Hello.
Ma'am, are you there?
Hello.
Yeah. So we are back.
Ma'am, SMART goal means it should be specific what we are going to treat.
What is a SMART goal?
Specific, measurable,
Yes.
attainable, relevant, and timely goals.
Good. So suppose you see a patient online, how could you set a SMART goal for that patient?
Like for specific condition you are asking, ma'am.
Yeah. Suppose a patient has consulted you for simple back pain. Okay.
Okay.
Right. How would you actually assess this patient online now? And how will you set a SMART goal for this patient? Yeah.
Like we will ask the
So,
patient how, what is the cause for the back pain? Like specifically, which makes him more, which makes the pain will be more for him, or any other complaint. Like by which movement he'll get the more back pain. By doing which activities he'll get the pain.
So how will you set the goal for this patient now? What will be the SMART principle you'll apply? So what are the growing outcomes you would have for this patient with back pain? Right. So the patient, suppose, is not able to bend down, pick things from the floor. Okay. He or she has pain lying on the bed, turning on the bed. What outcomes would you set for him, and how long a time period you want for this patient to show good results?
Like the time period should be very less, minimally like.
Yes, Neha, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, ma'am. Yeah.
Sneha, you answer, no, ma. It's no, okay, no problem. If you know, you answer.
Hello.
Hello, yes, Sneha. What would the goal you'll set for this patient?
I'm sorry, I have missed in between, ma'am. So I just joined VBAC, so I don't have idea regarding the case you're.
So we are talking about SMART goal, and especially the goal of SMART goal in telemedicine or tele-rehab. You've seen this patient who's old, who's not able to bend down, pick things from the floor, not able to turn, side to side on the bed, having pain mainly while lying down. What is the SMART goal, or what will you want to achieve for this patient in the going time? How will you set a SMART goal? How will you cater to SMART goal for this patient?
I would first like to work on the mobility of the patient, ma'am.
Yes. How would you do to tele-rehab?
To tele-rehab.
Demonstrate some bedside exercises.
Yes. Very good. Yes, ma'am. You can also put in your ideas here.
We can mix their exercises in their daily activities.
Like different exercises for each day.
Yeah, so you should ask the patient.
Thoracic movement, while sitting straight, the thoracic movement, the reaching exercises.
Also, as you have access to their home environment, see what kind of a mattress they're sleeping on, right?
Yes,
That
ma'am.
can give you 50% of the solving of the problem, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Suppose the mattress is sagging, that could be the cause and culprit. So I said the patient has pain only while lying down, right? That is the clinical observation or whatever the patient has told you, right? And you can observe maybe the mattress is all saggy, right? Yeah, and then you add on your mobility exercises and every other thing. Right, very good. Thank you, everyone. So another question I had was, suppose there was a lady who asked me about the consent for the patient. It's very important because anything which you are doing online or which you're doing through a gadget or a device, when you're seeing a person face to face, nothing gets recorded, right? In a database or in a cloud network, anything. But if you're doing tele-rehab, please take consent of your patient, because at times they need to understand that you are the only one going to be treating him or her. There's nobody other than them in the facility where they're seeing you online, and or whatever you are recording is being taken, you'll take the consent. So it's very important because you will have to maintain a data record for these patients. And this comes under the tele-rehab law of HIPAA all over the world, and in other countries we are doing it. But patient confidentiality, data protection is something still a missed subject in India, but we really need to work on if we are doing tele-rehab. Yeah, any other questions? Madhusmita, I answered your question. You got to do the tele concern. Okay? Yeah, ma'am. Any other questions from students? I think it's a very new chapter for them.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, it's like the first time they're coming across all this, so probably they need time to think and practice, and then they'll have more number of questions, ma'am.
I know. So they can always think about and send me all the questions in an email, okay? No, like how Hannah ma'am had sent.
Yes, ma'am. Sure.
Okay. Right.
Ma'am, for practicing things like passive movement or things like that, which requires so how can we like instruct the attender to do that to the patient, or make the patient do it himself? Things like that, which require the ones which we do to the patient, like mobilization and passive movement and all these things, which we make the patient do by touching the patient. So how can these be done via tele-rehab?
Yeah, so when you're choosing a patient, I had mentioned about you are assessing a patient through movement criteria of the patient, how the patient is moving. Rather, and you'll also ask the patient to palpate by himself or being palpated by a family member. So there are 4 criteria, as we said: the clinical assessment and the clinical therapy, whereby you are letting their family member help them do a passive movement, if at all you can teach them. And aspects to mobilization, they can do the mobilization. Suppose they want to do a kneecap mobilization, right? They can do that by themselves too. But there are limitations as ways to the touch-based physiotherapy. So you got to choose your patient whom you can treat through tele-rehab in a nice format manner, where you look at their movements, how much movement is restricted, how much help you can give to them. On that basis, you should choose your tele-rehab. If you feel this patient will not get help through passive mobilization, you still can go further, do the education, do the active exercise that the patient could do, and some amount of passive exercise with their family member and help. But going forward, you can tell them that once things are better, I would see you in the clinic maybe once a month to work on it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ma'am, even for the few patients, if we are going with the strengthening exercise and all, we need a few equipments there. So is it that we need to give a prior information to the patient that you need to buy this sort of things so that we can go ahead?
What sort of things you would ask the patient to buy? Suppose the patient doesn't want to buy.
If I want to go with the strengthening dumbbells, I can use a water bottle, ma'am. But I need a
Yes.
Swiss ball.
Yeah. Swiss ball
How
you
should
can
I
ask.
train the patient? Yeah, for the Swiss ball.
Yeah. So you can always tell them not on the first appointment. It's always not understand. First, you really need to understand the capacity of the patient. As I said, you need to be having a SMART goal, which is specific and measurable. Measurable matlab, you got to understand whether this patient will be able to do the exercise or not, right? You will have to justify whether the capacity of this patient is matching as per the protocol you'll give this patient. Then only ask them to buy the equipment. Because if they buy the equipment, they're not able to use because of any other reason, then our goal of communication actually doesn't go forward with this patient. So you got to be understanding the trust factor, the principle of able to carry on your successful rehab with this patient, and carry on going to help them in a continuity of care is very important. So we got to build the trust and build the rapport in the first instant, but do not pressurize them to buy stuff in the first go.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Very good questions, Sneha. Yeah. Any other question, please? So we'll wrap up the session, is it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Once again, good afternoon to all the participants. I'm sure all of us were benefited with this knowledge-filled session, and the session on the need of the hour right now, both for the patients and for the therapists. So it is my honor to propose the vote of thanks for the session. First and foremost, I thank our resource person, Dr. Anjali ma'am, who despite her busy schedule has took time to share her knowledge in a very innovative and interesting way. We thank you, ma'am. I thank all the students for their active participation and in making the session more vibrant and communicative. Thank you once again, ma'am. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anjali.
Thank you, Hannah ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. We enjoyed your sessions. Very lively and interactive.
Thank you so much. Thank you all the students and all the Principal Hannah ma'am and all the professors. It was lovely having to be a part of Apollo College.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.